Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. My name is Jeff Sharon, along with Eric Lopez. And, wow, what a week we've had in, well, the world, really. But a good week for UCF sports, despite what other things have been going on. It hasn't been, Eric. It's been, thank God for UCF, right? Gives us something good to talk about.
It's always wild, and, despite, whatever people might think what's going on elsewhere and non-sports stuff, it's always good to either let out your frustrations or excitement, or that's the beauty of sports. It's always, there's something going on, and it always gives you distractions.
We need UCF now more than ever. I'm just not.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You can hit us up on Twitter at UCF_Banneret. I am at Jeff_Sharon. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, as well as blackandgoldbanneret.com, and also hit us up with a subscription on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. So we got a lot to talk about this week. Big, huge men's soccer news, which kind of came out of nowhere. Very good news. We'll also take a look at football, who is one win away from bowl eligibility 1 year after going 0-12. We'll be able to reflect on that as they are big favorites against Cincinnati at home. And then we'll also hit up some volleyball news as well, with UCF coming down the stretch there. So, all right, but the first thing we're going to talk about is men's soccer, who I got to be honest with you, Eric, I had us pretty much written off at the end of the season. It's been a tough year for men's soccer. They finished the regular season 5-10, but they came into their final match of the season, senior day, on last Saturday, November the 5th, against Cincinnati, right before the football game. And they were in a position where if they won, and if two dominoes fell, I believe it was, who was it? They needed SMU to lose, and they needed, I think, was it?
Temple.
That's right.
Temple.
They need Temple to
lose to USF, ironically,
yeah.
And then they need SMU to lose or draw, because that also would have helped UCF possibly.
Or draw. And they had a mathematical shot at getting into the number 4 seed for the American Athletic Conference tournament. Well, lo and behold, Saturday afternoon, they beat Cincinnati 1-0. Lone goal to Matthias Puzzolo, who, by the way, finished the finisher, they call him, American Athletic Conference Offensive Player of the Year this year. So congratulations to Matthias.
Well deserved.
On that. Yes, indeed. Well deserved. 6 goals in conference play, 10 on the season. He gets the goal that puts UCF over the top. They hold on, and you were there as they defeated Cincinnati. And what was your sense when you were there?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was cool to be out there, and it was a lot of fans were kind of antsy. They were kind of like, they wanted to get it's a senior day, first of all, right? So you got motivation there based on the 3 seniors. You've got, okay, we need a win and then see what happens type of thing. And they kind of controlled the match. They got the goal early in the first half, and they had opportunities to really put the game away and extend it, but they kept missing. And I think there was kind of like antsy, like, oh, come on, Yeah. But, I thought the guys played very well. They were in control. Cincinnati really had like one threat in the second half, and that was about it. And it was a big win. And, it was a huge win. You could sense the relief on Coach Cunningham and the players. The players celebrated with the fans afterwards, and in particular that group, the Night Watch. And then I think it was, the first one, hey, we sent the seniors out really on a good note, in your home match. And then the other thing is, hey, let's see what happens.
Right.
And I remember I was there and I was texting you. I was like, what are the scenarios again? And
I had to go check the standings. And so here's what happened. UCF gets the victory. They got to 9 points in the standings. And so, like we said, they needed Temple and SMU to lose or draw. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened that night on 7 o'clock. So in the span of 8 hours, UCF jumps from last in the men's soccer standings to 4th and qualifies for the American Athletic Conference title, as they and Cincinnati both finished with 9 points, but UCF got the tiebreaker, so they outpaced the Bearcats, and they get into the tournament. 5-10 overall record, but 3-4 in the conference, good enough for 9 points. The teams that got in from the top to the bottom: USF, Tulsa, UConn, UCF. So the Knights play the Bulls, top seeded, 9-6-2 overall, 6-1 in the league, in the American Athletic Conference semifinal, which is Friday, Veterans Day, November the 11th. It's the nightcap, 7 p.m. And by the way, you can watch the tournament games on the American Digital Network at theamerican.org. First game is at 4:30 on Friday between the 3-seed UConn and the 2-seed Tulsa. The tournament is in Tampa, by the way, at Corbett Stadium. And then UCF and USF, a little extra war on I-4 action, this time with the American Conference championship slot on the line, 7 p.m. in that second semifinal. UCF gets a shot to do it. They lost to USF in a one-goal game, and earlier in the year in a game where they were really fraught with injuries. The Knights still fought but lost 2-1. And but before we did this, Eric, I wanted to show you this because we went ahead and we got Bryan Cunningham earlier this week, and he talked about a number of things, including obviously the crazy season that they've had. They've had 3 matches canceled due to weather, and then all of a sudden they kind of everything falls into place, and they get this sort of extra life. It's like they get the green mushroom, right? The 1-up, and here they are in the tournament playing USF, a team that. I got a good feeling about this one, believe it or not, because it looks like the Knights are primed and ready to go for this one. So here he is, the head coach of the UCF Knights men's soccer team, Bryan Cunningham. Joining me now, head coach of UCF men's soccer, Bryan Cunningham, fresh off of a season-ending victory over Cincinnati that got UCF into the top 4 in the conference, and they will play USF in the first round, the top seed USF in the first round of the American Athletic Conference Men's Soccer Championships. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. Obviously, certainly happy for our players as they've been just absolutely resilient all season, probably in 10 years of coaching and head coach here at UCF and 20 years coaching in general, one of the craziest I've ever seen in terms of, the injuries that have plagued us and the guys stepping up at different times. And the good thing is we're getting healthy and we're peaking at the right time, which is postseason play.
So you guys, let's face it, the numbers are the numbers, right? You finished the season 5-10 overall, but 3-4 in the league, and you won 2 of your last 3 in the conference to actually get into the tournament. So let's go back to this match against Cincinnati. It was senior day. You were graduating 3 seniors. It's always emotional. I hate senior day because everyone's a basket case, right? So what did you tell the guys before that match, considering that a victory and then a couple dominoes fall and your season's still going?
Yeah, it was actually before that. It was, after we lost to, Temple on the road, the guys were pretty down in the locker room, and I told them that, we weren't done yet. And, we kind of convinced them, let's just have a good week of practice and hope that fate's on our side. But let's have the right mentality going into the game against Cincinnati, which is all we can do is win. And then just hope that, kind of fate was on our side. I thought that we'd had a pretty solid year. We had done pretty well in the conference. And if you look at our season as a whole, we've had 13 of our 15 games are 1-goal games. And, Cincinnati was no different as we were able to pull ahead with a 1-0 victory.
How did you feel that evening after you got the results back? And how did the guys feel in particular when they saw, wow, Coach was right. We're not done yet.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, this is one of the best groups I've ever had. I mean, to start the season we had with the record that we had early in September, it would have been easy for these guys to quit. And they didn't. I mean, I know it sounds, kind of cliche a little bit that these guys kept working and fighting, but, I mean, there wasn't a moment at practice this entire season that these guys didn't come out and work hard and give their all, that I didn't think that they were bought into the process and what we were trying to do here. We were still, with all the injuries, we're a fairly young team. I mean, at any point, we're starting 5 freshmen and 4 sophomores. So I think from my standpoint, I couldn't be happier for a group. When you get into coaching, it's not about you, it's about the players. And I'm really happy for our seniors to get to another semifinal. And hopefully this will be our year that we push it over the top and win the championship.
Tell me about USF. You got them in the first round, top seed. You guys were, again, involved in – they were one of those one-goal games, Brian, but you get another shot at them. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we love the matchup, to be quite honest with you. We're going to be at full strength playing them, with everybody getting back healthy, which I think is important. This week has been really good to us in terms of having no midweek game and just being able to focus on USF solely. They're a very good team, but like I said, we like the matchup. I mean, they are the number 1 seed. They are going to be playing at home, but obviously there's a lot of pressure that comes with that as well. And I feel like our players are nice and relaxed. I think they have a little chip on their shoulder from the last time we played South Florida. And I think we're going to go in there and get a victory.
You think that there's – I know you touched on this a little bit, but is there in the locker room a little bit more urgency? I mean, obviously, it's a conference tournament game, but the fact that it's USF, does that put up a little bit extra with the guys?
It's kind of a mixed locker room. We do have a big group of returners who really value this game, and I think our younger players are now starting to understand what this rivalry means and the history of this game. I mean, we've beaten them in the NCAA tournament. They've beaten us in the NCAA tournament. We've beaten them at their place. They've beaten us at our place. And I think our returning players understand that, and I think our new guys are really starting to embrace what this game is all about, not just for soccer, but, for both universities as well.
Tell me about Matias Puzzolo. He finishes the regular season second in the American in goals behind Jorge Gomez-Sanchez of Temple. 10 goals of his own, double figures, plus 5 assists. How instrumental has he been for your team this season in getting you to a point where now you are a couple wins away potentially from a conference championship?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a great year for Matias. I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of view it as it all starts last spring. He and I sat down at the end of last season, and while he had a productive fall in terms of minutes in 2015, he really didn't get the goals and the assists that I thought maybe he could have. So we set some pretty concrete goals that he needed to get through in the spring, which he did, and some areas he needed to improve upon, going into the summer and then coming back to us. And all credit to the young man because he did it. I mean, he put the work in, and it's great now as a coach. It's one of the most rewarding things to see the little things in his games that he's done that, like, we noticed as a staff and, that I spotted on video and kind of showed him and convinced him these are areas he needs to improve upon if he wants those stats. And credit to him for kind of believing in that process and putting in the work. And not just scoring goals, but getting assists and obviously logging a lot of minutes for us. I think he's probably second or third on the team in minutes logged from a midfield position and a position that, requires a lot of workload.
Your 3 seniors who you sent off in their final home game the other night, Diego Bacelar and Javier Clavijo and Phil Hicks, how much have they contributed to your program? I mean, not just over the last 4 years, of course, but to this season in particular, and now that they have a chance to get to that conference championship, how much of a sense of urgency do they have now?
A lot. We talked about that today at practice. I mean, it's crazy. In my 10 years here, we've been to 8 conference tournaments. We've been to 5 semifinals now. And it sounds like they come easy, but they don't. And, Javi was there in 2013 when we went on that magical run and ultimately lost to UConn in the semifinal. And he hasn't been back since until this year. So it's kind of what we instructed the team today, and the seniors are trying to explain to him is that, these things don't grow on trees, and you got to really value this week of practice and really value this experience. And that's where they've been great for us, is just for the younger players to learn from them and how much they care about this program and how much they value every game and every minute. And, how much they appreciate walking through those gates out to our training field every day, because, ultimately their days are numbered doing it. And I think they really preach that to the younger players, that it does go by fast and you got to make the most of your opportunities.
So you head out to USF for this first round game. My last question for you: did you have the pepperoni and bacon pizzas after senior day?
Yeah, I mean, that's my specialty. I wouldn't let that go by the wayside. And obviously, I wouldn't say we're keeping them on ice for Friday night, but we certainly have the order ready to go, and hopefully we're celebrating back at the hotel and getting ready for Championship Sunday. I think this group really deserves to be in that final, and no matter who we play. But first we gotta really hit the ground running against South Florida, and get off on the front foot, and hopefully, like I said, we'll be celebrating a little run in the tournament here.
All right, well, we'll be watching on Friday night when you guys head down to Tampa. Head coach Bryan Cunningham, UCF men's soccer. Once again, congratulations on making it to the conference tournament. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you back here on Sunday, maybe with a trophy in hand. Who knows, right?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jeff.
All right, thanks, Bryan. And once again, we thank Coach Cunningham for joining us on the program. Wish him luck against USF. The Knights again play 7 p.m. on the American Digital Network on Friday, November the 11th, against USF. At USF is going to be tough, but I think it's doable. Winner of that match plays the winner of UConn and Tulsa in the championship game, again in Tampa. That's Sunday, November the 13th, which will be at noon, live on ESPN3, tape delayed on ESPNU at 4 o'clock that day. So real quick, Eric, what do you think their chances are?
It's good. We talked about this all season. Just get into the conference tournament with all the adversity, with the schedules and all the tough, cancellations and just not able to get into a rhythm and all that. Just get in. And now you're in, and play your two best soccer matches of the season, and you're going to get to the NCAA tournament. And you don't have to fly to go to play in this tournament. You're going to Tampa, and it's a team you're familiar with. It's a team you know. You're going to get your fans to travel up there. And I think you got to feel like, wow, we got in. We got nothing to lose. Everybody's going to pick USF. Everybody's going to pick so-and-so. You could play with this team. I mean, it was a one-go, could have gone either way type of match when they played earlier this year in Orlando. So there's nothing to lose. I mean, and I think that's the thing you're excited about if you're the players. And I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup, an interesting chapter to this rivalry. And you got to feel like, let's be honest, if you could upset USF at home, now all of a sudden you're playing the championship game on Sunday in Tampa. You're probably going to have more fans than your opponent if you could get to that point. It reminds me a lot, Jeff, of UCF women's soccer back in 2011. And this was Amanda Cromwell. And this, having worked at UCF and knowing Amanda, the big storyline with Amanda Cromwell was for a while, had all these great teams, but she couldn't get over the hump as far as that round, get to the round of 16, right? Get to the round. And it was always somebody was in there, on their way. And, I remember, that year the format changed for the soccer tournament where UCF was able to host a first round game, for example, instead of what it used to be, which is you go to Florida, for example, and play 2 games there. You would play your first round game there, and then you would probably have to play Florida in the second round. The format changed to where UCF had to play a first round game, and then they get to go to Florida for the second round in the round of 16. Mm-hmm. So UCF won their game, the opening round match that year. I think it was FIU they played and beat. And then they went to Florida and for the second round game, and they beat them. They finally beat the Gators. It was a 3-2 game, wild game. They won, and they went to the round of 16, and they played North Carolina. But they played North Carolina in Gainesville.
Yeah.
So guess what happened? It became like a de facto UCF home game. And Aline Reyes, who obviously played for the Brazilian national team this year in the Olympics, is arguably the greatest goalie in UCF soccer history. He's now a goalie coach at UCLA with Coach Cromwell. They went to penalty kicks, and I still have that vision, that photo. You could probably Google it, where she makes that save against North Carolina. to win the game, and they got to the Elite Eight. Yeah. Unfortunately, they fell short against Wake Forest. But my point is, the reason I bring that up is I felt that because that game was in Gainesville in a weird way, which was ironic because so many seasons for Coach Cromwell ended in Gainesville, that it actually benefited them when they played North Carolina.
And I think it wasn't a strange place.
Correct. Exactly. And so that's why if Coach Cunningham, if this group can beat USF, I would almost be willing to say that the winner of this game will probably end up winning the conference title. They got to feel really good about their chances. So that's what's so – I think it works out. Whereas, let's say Connecticut would have hosted the tournament and you had to go all the way to Hartford. There's no advantage there.
Right.
But because it is as weird as it sounds, and I know it's their rivals, and certainly it's going to be a tough game. USF won the regular season title. They're a tremendous program. So let's not – I don't want to make it like, it's going to be easy. But what I'm saying is if you can get through that hurdle, I think the championship game in a weird way is a lot easier than that first game because I think they'll have a lot of advantages going into that.
Well, I hope so, and I know Brian does too. So we wish him luck on that one. Like I said, hey, they have the conference offensive player of the year this year, Matthias Pizzolo.
Don't you agree? We're going to see him at the next level, aren't we? We're going to see him at the MLS.
I hope so. That's the thing that Brian I don't think has gotten enough credit for is the players he's developed over time. He's got a pretty decent stock of MLS kids.
Yeah.
Sean Johnson back in Chicago, who's actually in the U.S. men's national team pipeline for a while.
He's with the Chicago Fire.
Yep.
You've got Warren Cravell in the league. You've got Brown. You got now the most recently Haji Berry, who's with Orlando City.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
Strong showing for UCF men's soccer, and this team too. I mean, they fought so hard to get to this point. I mean, they fought and they scraped, and I just love teams like that they're able to play like that. So, and now they get another shot at USF. I haven't been able to confirm whether or not there's some extra bonus points on the line for the War on I-4 trophy on this one.
I would assume they are. I remember when that came out, they said they would possibly be yes. I don't know how many, but I think there could be a possibility of that. I would be surprised if there wasn't, to be honest. I believe I remember saying, hey, if they play in postseason, there could be some added deal there. By we forgot Romario Williams, by the way. Romario. He was in the MLS. He was a third pick in the MLS draft a couple of years ago. It's just been a pretty amazing job what he's done there. Williams, in fact, is with the Montreal Impact, who are in the conference finals in the MLS playoffs going on right now. So it just keeps going and going. I mean, we mentioned Warren Cravell, who's with Toronto.
Yep.
Kevin George, who's with the Columbus Crew. It's been pretty amazing. And I know some fans are in a way. I know some fans have talked to about it. I was at the game, and that's some of them are frustrated because clearly they can recruit top talent, but they haven't. They had that great run, Jeff, where they made the NCAA tournament back-to-back years. I believe it was 2010, 2011, and they haven't. They've run into some bad luck in the last few years with injuries or just lack of positions in certain areas. It's just been very interesting, just haven't been able to put it all together. But clearly, Brian has shown that he can recruit. And, hopefully they can put it together this weekend in Tampa and make, like I said, play your two best. You got your best soccer this weekend. You go into the tournament. That's been always the goal. So
once again, thanks to Bryan Cunningham for joining us. And, hey, good luck against Tampa. Once again, that's 7:30 p.m. 7 p.m. estimated start time on the American Digital Network, which is available via YouTube Friday, November the 11th in the Men's Soccer American Athletic Conference Championship. All right.
Stick around. We're back after this.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Fegley.
This is Trey Strelka with the UCF Nightline Podcast, the original, the number one rated UCF sports podcast.
You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, it's UCF_Nightline and at www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com.
Be sure to subscribe to us as well on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
And when you get sick of listening to these guys, make sure you look us up.
Don't forget, that's the UCF Nightline Podcast. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now, back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Let's move over to football. Knights, big win at home. Get the job done against Tulane. Eric Lopez, 37-6. And this was what was unusual about this game. 3 defensive touchdowns on returns, 2 interception returns, one by Shaquille Griffin, one by Drico Johnson in the fourth that kind of sealed up the game. And Drico Johnson actually had 2 touchdowns in the game because he had a 30-yard fumble return in the third quarter, which put UCF up by, it was 7-6 at the half. Very slow pace first half, and then Johnson's fumble return kind of broke it open, and then the second defensive touchdown by Shaquille Griffin in the third kind of sealed it up, 20-6 after 3, and then that was pretty much it. As the Knights scored 30 points in the second half to wipe out Tulane, who's 0-5 in the league. 37-6 was the final, and lo and behold, the Knights 5-4, 3-2 in the league. Still a very, very, very remote glimmer of hope for the East title. They would need Temple to lose twice. But the Knights right now are 1 win away from bowl eligibility, which let's stop and reflect on that for a hot second here. This is a team that was 0-12 last year and was a complete disaster on all sides of the ball. Basically gave up on the season. And to get to a point where now if you win their next game against Cincinnati to be bowl eligible, let's step back and think for a second. This is a pretty remarkable feat that they're even this good right now, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think specifically the defense. I thought it was fitting defensively. 3 touchdowns. I mean, they carried that game. They were the whole story. It's one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. I mean, I got to sit in the stands, which, first of all, one of the most perfect days of weather that I've ever remembered for a UCF game. That was beautiful,
yeah.
Jeff.
Remember, this was the makeup game for for the storm for the one that was moved back from the hurricane, and they only played on ESPN 3 and whatever. We kind of got a little screwed on the TV, but still got the job done.
But it was just a beautiful day. I mean, I actually sat in the stands, and it was beautiful. And the UCF, I love the all-black look. It kind of, I don't think it's what they were shooting for, but, it was funny. For me, it reminded me a little bit of what UCF used to wear, like, in the 80s and the early 90s, when they would go all black when they were in 1AA, and it was the kind of, I mean, I don't think that was the intent, but it just kind of, for me, it was just like a flashback. Having seen yearbook photos and highlights from old days, like Sean, I was like, hey, Sean Beckham out there wide receiving, So that was cool. But it was interesting. The defense dominated. I mean, really, if you think about the 6 points, I mean, it really wasn't the defensive fault. The 6 points was set up by Adrian Killing's fumble in the first possession of the ball game, and Tulane took the ball over in UCF territory, had a short field, and they converted it into a touchdown. Other than that, I mean, UCF dominated and put 3 touchdowns on the board, which was funny because all those came in the second half, and then most in the third quarter. They were on the field the whole time because of that, because they kept scoring. The offense could barely get on the field.
Yeah.
But
the Knights only had the ball for 20 minutes and 10 seconds in the game. It was a 2-1 time of possession advantage for Tulane.
Well, it's what we expected. Tulane was going to try and ground it out and but they just didn't. They couldn't make big plays against that defense. Yeah. And there's a moment, Jeff, and I'm sure that the audience, if they haven't seen it, I'm sure you'll put this in UCFKnights.com. Did a great job of this, and I love the footage. They had a footage from the locker room, and where Scott Frost gave the game ball to coach to the defense and gave it to the defensive coaching staff.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about Scott that has impressed me, he is not shy to give credit to the other people. Like, that was the first thing he said in the postgame. Give the credit to the defensive staff, Coach Shananner, and the rest of the group. They deserved it. He gave him the game ball, and he's like, give him. You know what I mean? Like, how many? It's not about him. And he is not. He is going to give his staff a ton of credit. Because he was honest about it. He's like, you know what? Offensively, we just didn't, we struggled. We didn't get some things done. And they didn't. They did struggle.
Go ahead.
But the defense picked him up. And he's quickly to point that out and give it to the staff. And they've done a tremendous job. I believe they're they're in the top 30 in a lot of categories defensively.
31st in total defense. Bear in mind, 103rd in total offense, which is a bit of a surprise. This is the one that I like. Red zone defense. The Knights are ninth best in the country. 9th best. That's a really impressive performance, considering how badly people were scoring on them in the second half of last season. And we always thought this philosophy would be this way: bend but don't break, right?
Yeah.
And boy, they have bent at times, but they do not break. And they were able to hold Tulane quite well. I thought that they were going to have some problems in the rushing game, in rush defense. It turns out that they were quite dominant. Now, I'm a little concerned about the offense, though. Mackenzie Milton, 9 of 20, 85 yards with a pick, gave way to Justin Holman, who actually scored the final touchdown of the game on a one-yard touchdown run. That capped off an 80-yard drive late in the fourth. That was just pretty much the cherry on top. But when you look at the Cincinnati game coming up next, they're struggling, 4-5, but I don't think they're quite struggling as poorly as Tulane is right now. The Knights are still a 12-point favorite. By the way, interesting number here. UCF is a favorite, 4-1 against the number, 7-2 overall record against the number. So, little nugget for you to write down there. But this is a Cincinnati team that's coming off of losing 4 of their last 5, lost their last game at home against BYU, and Tommy Tuberville got into some hot water after this past weekend. So it's a disappointing loss to BYU. The Bearcats at home only score 3 points. As he's walking off the field, a fan starts heckling him. And he stops and there's video of it. You can look it up. Starts screaming at the fan and says, hey, why don't you get a job? I think the fan was yelling at him, Tommy, you're stealing money from this school.
Yes. Yes,
and,
that's exactly.
Why don't you go get a job? So he had to issue a public apology for this, and I think the university released a statement with that apology on his behalf. But things seem to be unraveling with Cincinnati right now, and they were expected to have a very good year. It hasn't worked out that way. Their only win in the last 5 games was against East Carolina. But here they come into UCF, and the Knights on an upward trajectory, facing the Bearcats, what I believe is a downward trajectory right now. Knights know that they can seal up bowl eligibility at home, because the next game at home is going to be quite difficult against Tulsa, who's leading the West right now in the American. So what's the outlook on your end right now from what you see against this Cincinnati team? This was a game that I actually at the start of the year had this as probably as a guaranteed L. Now we're favored by 12 points, and I'm actually a little scared of that number being a little high. What about you?
No, I feel good because, again, they've had issues in the start of the offensive side. They had a quarterback carousel there. Gunnar Kiel now is in the game, is their starter. They're Hayden Moore started the year.
And what a mess for Gunnar Kiel. He was expected to be an NFL prospect at the start of the year, and it has just all come apart.
Well, he's had a wacky career, just across the board, but that's a whole other story. But look, they're having struggle. I mean, they were held to 3 points in that loss to BYU, which is the game you were referring to this past Saturday at home. And again, to go back to what we just talked about, this UCF defense, I have the utmost confident. Eric Chenander, by the way, I want to point this out, should get consideration for the Ryan Broyles. What's the award for the top assistant coach?
Frank Broyles Award.
Thank you. I was thinking Ryan Broyles, the former receiver for Oklahoma for some reason. But you're right. It's the Frank Broyles Award. He should get consideration for that. And credit to Scott Frost, too, again, because let's be honest, Jeff, remember when he announced his hire of Eric Chenander, everybody was like, who? Like, what?
Yeah.
Who is this guy? Right? Everybody's like, who is this staff? And the guy was a linebacker coach at Oregon. And Ben, he's done a fantastic job. Granted, I know some people are saying, well, is it because of him or is it because of the personnel that he has? And I say it's both. I definitely think we've learned, Jeff, that this defense had more talent than I think they showed last year or performed last year. But I also think that Eric Chenander has done a great job in giving this defense from a mental standpoint a belief that they can play well. okay, and B, to put them in the position to be successful. And so he's done a tremendous job, and he's actually my favorite now because his birthday is a day before me. Like, we're the same age. We're the same age.
By a few hours when you think about it, right?
He was born on December 19th, 1979. I was born on the 20th. I'm going to have to bring that up when I talk to him at some point. That's so I'm a huge fan of what he has done, and I don't want to the whole defensive staff. Going to Travis, from Travis Fisher and on and on and on. But he has been a phenomenal hire, a phenomenal find. And, we've spent time talking about, geez, are we worried about Scott Frost leaving and stuff like that? I'm just as worried about Eric Shenander leaving because I think he's going to become a hot name. If not after this year, maybe next year if he keeps this up as a defensive coach, don't you? I think so.
I'm not as worried about that. I don't think he's going to be a 1-year wonder here at UCF. I think that some other schools might want to see another year.
Sure.
I will say this though. He has taught the new philosophy perfectly to this group of players. UCF right now, by the way, tied for ninth in the country in turnovers gained. By the way, Cincinnati, interestingly, tied with them in that slot. But this was the objective. It's like we're probably going to give up some yards because we're going to be on the field for a long time. But we are going to cause havoc. We're going to force turnovers. We're going to play with our hair on fire at 150 miles an hour, and that's what these guys do. Now, sometimes I think this has resulted in some borderline, I don't want to say reckless, but a little bit of overzealous penalties on occasion. But I feel like that's, on occasion, a price that you have to pay for the style that you're playing. And they do give up 364 yards a game, which, isn't all that spectacular. But, man, do they force a lot of turnovers. And they certainly – and we saw what they did against Tulane. They didn't just force a ton of turnovers, 5 for the game. They took 3 of them back to the house.
And again, I said this even before the year. The yard, don't study the yardage. Like you mentioned, the yards they give up per game. It's very misleading because they're on the field a lot. Because with the style of offense that you're playing with the Oregon style of spread, up tempo, no huddle, the defense is going to be on the field a lot. If you watch the NFL, you want to know which team is on the field the most from a defensive standpoint in the league. It's the 49ers.
Yeah.
I think they've done studies where the Niners have basically played an extra quarter on defense.
And their head coach is Chip Kelly.
Correct. So what I'm saying is the stats are misleading. Don't pay attention to that because it's misleading because they're on the field a lot. And I feel good with them. And that's why I feel good with them in any game. They've given this team a chance to win every game defensively. Except for the Michigan game, and you can't blame it. Michigan's at a different level.
Right, Michigan might win the national championship. So.
Exactly. So I feel good about that matchup against Cincinnati. Now, to your original question about how do you feel about the game, obviously you brought up the offense and their struggles. And look, McKenzie obviously is having his struggles. He's a freshman, true freshman.
Yeah, we keep having to remind ourselves of that, don't we?
I do.
He's a true freshman. Juwan Hamilton's a true freshman. Adrian Killens is a true freshman.
Well, I think Scott Frost has been honest about that. I think let's be honest, I think if Justin Holman would have stayed healthy and played well, I think they would have probably redshirted McKenzie. He probably wasn't ready to be on the field, but they had no choice, and they went with him, and now it's about him getting experience. So what you hope there is that all the struggles he's going through now will pay off next year and beyond. In fact, Jerry O'Neill, the sideline reporter on the broadcast, asked Scott Frost, because Scott Frost, I guess, took Mackenzie Milton on the side, I guess, in the fourth quarter of that Tulane game. And Jerry's like, hey, do you mind if I ask you this was on the postgame show, what did you talk to Mackenzie about? He's like, and I think he told him, and I'm paraphrasing here, don't quote me word for word, but basically was, I'm looking forward to coaching you next, coach. I enjoy coaching you. And I look forward to coaching you next year when you win the American Conference Player of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year. It tells you, though, I think he believes in this kid. And I think Scott.
Oh, yeah. Well, he wouldn't have pulled him all the way over from Hawaii if he didn't.
Right, but I think there's a message to the madness there. I mean, he struggled in this Tulane game, but it's a way to keep him up as far as, you know what, we're going to be positive. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to get better, and you're going to be fine.
Isn't that so important to do with especially young players, is to instill confidence? When you're 18, 19 years old, and you're out there on that stage, it's overwhelming, man. I mean, it's overwhelming sometimes for seniors who are getting their first shot to do it. I mean, you're a true freshman, you're out there. And that I think speaks to, I think I know what you were going to say. I think that speaks to Scott Frost's inherent understanding of players in 2016, something that George O'Leary never got.
Yeah, I think if you look at the unraveling at the end of the O'Leary there, I think that was the complete opposite. You're right. I mean, he was the type that would crack the whip. You know, if you're struggling, I'm benching you. Do this. And, at some point players will tune that out. And I think that's what probably occurred in the last year or two where Scott, and I think that's why, Scott's the complete opposite. And I think the players have bought in, and I think the players will enjoy that and they appreciate that. And I think they're having fun, and I think they're playing well. And I think Scott, he's a fascinating guy because, when he does these press conferences, he's very down, as far as pregame and all that, he's very low key. He doesn't really, say anything drastic, but you could see him on the field. He's very passionate. He's intense. But you're right. I don't, he will be hard on him, but I think he also tries to put the positive spins, and I think he understands what he has in Mackenzie Milton. He's just a true freshman, and he knows that, hey, you know what? You're going to go through some bumps, and I think it helps, too. Scott Frost has played that position. He's probably gone through those things, and I think he knows, you know what? I'm going to, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay, and I think that'll go a long way with him and other players. So, that's why, to me, for Mackenzie Milton, for this year, what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned, it's about getting experience and getting the reps. And I think your hope is that all this reps and all this experience and all this struggles and adversities and everything he's going through this year will pay off next year and beyond. And that we talk in a year from now until you're like, wow, what a difference this kid is. And boy, he's finally grown up. You know what I mean? Type of thing. And I think that's the goal. That's the goal. And I think that's what Coach Frost is hoping as well.
High expectations, high support. Looking forward to seeing what the Knights can do.
Noon kickoff, Military Appreciation Day. Fans, I believe, get to be on the field after the game.
Knights, by the way, about a 75% favorite according to ESPN's Football Power Index. And this game is live at noon on ESPN at Bright House Network Stadium. One more home game after that against Tulsa. That's Senior Day.
Dave Lamont will be calling the game with Ahmad Brooks, former linebacker at Virginia, I believe. And former Niner, I believe. So they will be
one of our South Florida guys from going way back.
Correct. So they will be calling the game. And then, by the way, make a note, Knight fans, the Tulsa game television start time will probably be announced late Saturday night or Sunday morning. I know some people are annoyed with that, but that's make a note of that. And that's a big day, too, because that's Senior Day, last football game of the year, but also there's a women's basketball game that day. UCF will take on Virginia Tech, and we don't know the time for that yet because they're waiting on the football kickoff time. So everybody's kind of waiting on that stuff, but make a note of that this weekend.
All right, so we're looking forward to it. And, boy, what a reward it would be for this team to get bowl eligible. Hope they can do it against Cincinnati. All right, let's transition over to volleyball, where the Knights pick up. We saw they got the win again at USF, and then they got the win again before our last show. Then they get the win against Memphis up in Tennessee, and this was key because the Knights got to 20 wins overall. It's the fourth 20-win season for head coach Todd Dagenais and his squad. They defeat Memphis in 4 to go to 20-7, 10-4 in the league. Jayla Hervey, 26 kills in this match. And here's the deal for women's volleyball. Right now, the Knights are in 4th place in the league at 10-4 overall. They're one loss behind Temple and Cincinnati, who are both at 11-3, and 2 in the loss column behind the leader SMU at 12-2. Now, we've seen how good these teams are, all 3 of them. But the Knights are the first team from the American to hit 20 wins this year. And they got 4 matches to go, including 6 matches to go. Sorry about that. This next 2 at SMU, Thursday night, 8 p.m. in Dallas, and then at Tulsa. Now, we saw the match earlier this season against SMU. We know how good SMU is. They beat the Knights in 3 at the venue back on October the 23rd. Knights did defeat Tulsa earlier this season. But, boy, they would like to return the favor to SMU on the road in Dallas. And then after that, it's their last home weekend of the season against Temple and UConn before going on the road to finish up the regular season at Tulane and Houston the following weekend, which is Thanksgiving weekend. So, boy, things have shaped up quite nicely for UCF volleyball this year, hasn't it? 20 wins with 6 matches to go.
It's been a fun year, and they still got things to play for. You're right. I mean, the SMU game is huge. SMU in first. If you could steal that win on them, this is a critical weekend. This 4-game road trip was critical. They're off to a good start, getting those 2 wins against USF and Memphis. Now you've got Tulsa, SMU, tough places to play.
Now they are behind Cincinnati. By the way, I mentioned the standings, and they have played Cincinnati both times. They've lost both times.
Correct.
To Cincinnati, unfortunately.
A heck of a race. Yeah. A heck of a race. And they've got Temple on November 19th, a game that'll be, I'm looking forward to calling that with Aaron Campbell on the American Digital Network. In fact, we're going to have Aaron next week to talk about not just that match, but UCF volleyball in general. So we're looking forward to that. As I just spoke to her, and we're hopefully we'll make that work.
Awesome.
Jeff is the technical expert guy, so we'll make it work. But look, it's been a heck of a year. But you're right. I mean, they have it. I mean, I hate saying must win, but it is almost a must win. If you want to win the regular season title, don't you, Jeff? They
all are at this point, because you have the 2 matches that you dropped to Cincinnati, and all 4 of these teams at the top of the league right now are USF, by the way, behind the Knights at 7-7, so they're 3 games back. So it's really a 4-horse race at this point. And
they've separated themselves from the pack. They've separated themselves from the pack. And when I say separate, I'm saying SMU, Temple, Cincinnati, UCF. They've all separated themselves from the rest of the pack in the league. And that's going to be interesting. I mean, UCF's RPI is 57 coming into this week.
That's right on the bubble.
Yeah, and if they can beat SMU on the road, if you can win on the road against an SMU team that has a 43 RPI. That's a top 50 win. Trust me, that will boost your RPI, especially a road win. That is a huge match. And then Tulsa, don't let that record, be deceiving. You saw them, Jeff, at Tulsa. They are a talented team that's had some bad breaks this year, but they can play. And, so it's an interesting, it's a week there, and that's going to be a challenge. Let me ask you this question.
All right.
Todd Dagenet, I don't know if is very, very, a lot. He's on social media a lot, on Twitter. He tweets a lot, right? Fantastic tweets too. I recommend following. Making the case for Jayla Harvey, for Player of the Year in the conference. He tweeted that out recently, this week. She won Player of the Week, you mentioned. And this is something I'm looking forward to with Erin to talk about, because she's seen her. And to me, I think it's a 2-person race that I've done some research in preparation for that Temple game. I think it's her and Jordan Thompson from Cincinnati, who you got to see.
Jordan Thompson was fantastic when we saw her. And you saw how she got stronger as the match went along. But I'll tell you, Jayla Hervey this year has not gotten enough credit, I think, for the maturity that she has shown. They had to put so much on her shoulders last year because of the injuries. And this year, to see her, she has turned into the go-to player for UCF on the outside hitter position. I mean, and she just continues to get stronger as the season goes by. 26 kills is a ton in a match that goes 4. And I mean, usually don't see a lot of players get that many in a match that goes 5. She got it in a 4-set match. And And I think that she's going to have to be the one to lead UCF in these last 6 matches. If she continues to play well, that bodes very well. I think that she's going to have to play extremely well against SMU. But the problem that the Knights had against SMU is that they're such a solid hitting team. They don't make a lot of errors. So if you're UCF, you have to try and get up and overpower them, I think. And if you're going to do that, Jayla's going to have a big match against SMU if the Knights are going to defeat the Mustangs.
Jayla Harvey, by the way, second in the conference in kills, 4.89 behind Jordan Thompson, who averages 5 a game. They were just like that, too, last year. I think it's one of those two for Player of the Year. And I think it could come down to which team finishes ahead in the standings. Right. It could come down to as simple as that. If one of them wins the regular season title, I think that's who the coaches who tend to vote on this stuff will end up voting for. Either way, well, the one thing we can, I think, would feel safe and guaranteed. I mean, she's going to be a first-team all-conference.
Definitely.
Without question. And how about Kia Bright, who had missed all last year, was injured? It's made a big difference. Yeah. And you told me that last year.
She's the part about her game that's been underrated is her defense. She is such a good two-way player, and I think that's why we missed her so badly last year. And to see her this year really, really take on that swing between that offense and defense role, she coming off of an ACL, and you know that you're never 100% the year after you bust up your ACL. All the rehab in the world, you're still never 100%. And it takes that's a 2-year injury. And to see what she's been able to do this year has been remarkable. One other shout-out I wanted to give, too. Hats off to Allie Sable, the freshman. She's a lefty, and she's big, too. She's 6'3". And she has stepped into a starting role on right side, and she's been fantastic. She had another double-digit kill match against Memphis with 10 kills plus a block, and another great two-way player because she can play the middle while also hitting on the outside on the right side as well. So future's bright for a true freshman there with Allie Sable. And again, the Knights have been very fortunate, to this point. Injuries have not been a problem so far, knock on wood. And if things continue going the way they're going, keep that RPI up high. Maybe you steal this match against SMU, bring them back down by one conference match. That'll really help out your RPI as well. So this is you're indeed right, Eric. This is a critical weekend for UCF with SMU and Tulsa on the road. And you mentioned Tulsa, by the way, how tough they play. The first time they played UCF back on October 21st at the venue. It was a 3-0 win for UCF in a sweep, but it was competitive in each set, 25-22, 25-23, 26-24. So just because, remember, that's one of the beautiful things about volleyball is that it could be a blowout in terms of sets, but a close and entertaining match that just goes quickly because each of the sets is close. So, again, chance to do that. They split at home with these two teams, and they can pick up a pair on the road. Who knows?
Agreed. Let's go. Have fun with it.
So,
wishing the best of luck.
So, all right. So, as we wrap up here, what are you looking forward to the most this weekend?
Well, I'm looking forward to the men's soccer tournament. I want to see Coach Cunningham if they can do this, if they can pull this off. That USF match is going to be interesting. Looking forward to that. Friday night, obviously, monitor volleyball from a distance.
We'll be scoreboard
and then obviously
on that one.
And then the football team. Can they get bowl eligible? Will we get to talk next week about bowl possibilities if they get this win? And that'll be fun because I think they will. And I think we'll probably break down what bowl games they could go. It's very interesting because
I've been taking a look at the bowl projections myself. I'm looking at actually USA Today right now. Where do they have us? They have us. I'm thinking that they're going to. Not in St. Petersburg. I'm looking for the Cure Bowl. Where is that?
Well, here's the thing about the Cure Bowl. Keep this in mind.
They have us right now, Cure Bowl against South Alabama, which is, by the way, on December the 17th.
Correct. Now, there's been other projections that have UCF going against Georgia Southern, which would be very appealing with the former assistant staff of UCF's coaching staff on that Georgia Southern team with Tyson Summers there as the head coach.
That's right.
But this is something to keep in mind. And credit to Brandon Helwig on this, UCFsports.com, because he actually posted about this. The American Conference has 8 tie-ins to bowl games.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Correct. The Cure Bowl is the 8th, basically. The thing is, right now, they're on pace to maybe have 7 teams eligible for a bowl game. So the reason I bring that up is for UCF to go to the Cure Bowl, they would have to have 8 teams eligible for a bowl game to get there. Otherwise, if there's only, let's say, 7, the Cure Bowl probably gets shut out of having an American Conference team for the second year in a row. This is what happened to them last year. Right. They didn't get an American because they didn't have enough bowl teams. So don't assume that it's just a lock for the Cure Bowl, because unless they were able to work out a side deal, which is very unlikely, who knows, there has to be 8 bowl teams. And we'll break this down in a future podcast as we get closer to it. But, Cincinnati being among the teams who are trying to fight for bowl eligibility, SMU among others. But just keep that in mind. If there's only 7 slots, then UCF probably will not end up at the Cure Bowl. They probably at that point, I think the 3 choices would be, and I don't have, not in a specific order, but, the Miami Beach Bowl at Marlins Park would be in play. The Bahamas Bowl in the Bahamas is in play. And I think the Boca Raton Bowl where FAU plays, those would be the 3 destinations, I think, if UCF does not end up in the Cure Bowl. I think those are the other 3 destinations that UCF will probably, if they get bowl eligible, will end up in one of those 3 destinations. And, that's kind of how I envision it. We'll go in more to depth, and we might even break this down maybe. Well,
I've even got them all pulled up. You ready to take a look? I got them from a whole bunch, a whole bunch of different sources. All right, CBS, I believe Stuart Mandel's at Fox. CBS has UCF,
Jerry Palm does.
Jerry Palm, okay. So he's got UCF against Troy in the Cure Bowl.
Yeah.
Stuart Mandel of Fox has UCF in the Cure Bowl against Georgia Southern.
That's the one I like.
And over on ESPN.com, Mark Schleybaugh has us against Georgia Southern in the Cure Bowl. But Brett McMurphy, our old friend, has us going to Marlins Park for the Miami Beach Bowl on December the 19th against the Ohio Bobcats.
Frank Solich, head coach there. No, and look, again, if there's only 7 teams that are bowl eligible, then that might be the destination, and what might be Miami Beach. If they get to 8, then I think they will end up in the Cure Bowl. Alan Gooch obviously runs that bowl. I think it's a win-win for all parties there.
I agree with that, yeah.
So I think that's something to keep in mind as we go. And we might get into this a little bit more and see what the conference looks like from a bowl standpoint next week and the week after that and so forth, to kind of try to pencil this in and give us an idea of where they're headed. But that's just something. But the first thing we need to do is get bowl eligible and win this Saturday. I know people have brought up the whole 5 and 7 and academics and all that. Let's just get the 6th win.
Get the 6th and get there. And don't leave any question about it. And you know what? Even better, take one of the last 2 and get it to 7. Or if you can win them both, get to 8. How about that? Beat USF.
Just take them one at a time. Start with Cincinnati, take care of them at home, and get to 6 wins and go from there. You're right. I agree.
So what are you working on this week?
Well, I mean, I will be probably at the Cincinnati game. I was trying to think this Saturday. I got a lot of stuff I got to prepare for next week. And I mentioned I'm going to be working the volleyball telecast on Friday, November the 18th, American Digital Network. We'll get into more of this next week. UCF and against Temple, which could be a huge match. We're very excited about that. And I'll be working again with Aaron Campbell, who we will have on this podcast next week. And we'll talk some volleyball then. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's really what I want to push. First of all, I want people to go out to the matches. But if you can't make it out to the match, you can watch us on the American Digital Network on the American.org. And you can even, go to the match and then watch it on archives.
That's right.
They put them up on YouTube now. So that's one of the many things. I'm not even going to go into the other stuff I'm working into because there's too many to mention. But that's the main thing I'll be focused on. I will be filling in, co-hosting Tuck and O'Neill this Friday with Jerry, who's happy to finally not have to travel somewhere on a Friday. You'll get to be home. So I'll be filling in for Mike Tuck as well, and we'll get you ready for that UCF Cincinnati game. Gary Paris, the radio analyst, will be on the show there at 5:30 to talk some UCF football on that stuff. And I believe you are on weekly with Eric Casillas. Are you
That's
not?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. I will be. Usually we do it Wednesdays, but sometimes we do it on Thursdays or Tuesdays whenever he's got the time slot. But yes, I do a little weekly check-in with our friend Eric Casillas, the most convincing man in sports radio.
I'll be filling in this next week on that show producing, so you'll hear from me, Jeff, and I'll let you know when you're on, and I'll let everybody else know. Right. So, which will be good. Yes, I'll be up a lot early next week. That's what I'm saying. I have a very busy week next week, but
I'll be
it's a
sure
fun
to send
thing.
you some coffee. So
please do. I strongly that would be fantastic. But otherwise, enjoy everybody. And again, again, reminder: make sure you watch UCF Men's Soccer, American Digital Network Friday. That's USF.
7
to beat that
p.m.
school. Absolutely tremendous. I'll be watching that on Friday night. That's number one on my bucket list. We got the football game on Saturday, and then follow volleyball as they track on the road to Tulsa and SMU. It's a fun time. And oh, by the way, we got basketball, Jeff.
That's right.
Basketball.
Next week, baby. Basketball gets started up. Here we go. We got women's basketball on Sunday, too. I'll be doing some by the way, I will be doing public address for the women's basketball game against South Alabama on Sunday. So that'll be fun to do as well. So.
And you're going to be putting up some basketball content, too. We haven't forgotten, you guys. We haven't forgotten. Look for some basketball content in the coming days as well. I know you went to Media Day and talked to some players.
Talk to BJ Taylor, talk to Zy Lewis. BJ was fun to talk to, and he looks like he's ready for the season to get started, man. So this is going to be we're hitting UCF, the sort of fall equinox of UCF sports with the fall sports coming to an end and basketball getting started. So, and don't forget,
we're working.
We're
working on a surprise. We're hoping for a surprise or two, if not next week, but during the basketball season, of some guests that the Knight fans will enjoy.
Stay tuned for that one as well. Don't forget to follow us at UCF_Banneret on Twitter. Follow me at Jeff_Sharon. Follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. And you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Don't forget to hit us up on Facebook and subscribe to our email newsletter, blackandgoldbanneret.com. Good talking to you, Eric. Take it easy, brother.
It's a pleasure, Jeffrey. Talk to you next week.
And thank you for listening once again. For Eric Lopez, my name is Jeff Sharon. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.